Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me for the Goddess Worship Service live streamed to you over YouTube. I'll ask you right off the bat, in case you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Goddess Temple YouTube channel. That would be wonderful. And, you know, it's such a strange time that we are living in, isn't it? And it's a very challenging time that we are living in. We are really forced in many ways to adapt to the changing landscape almost, well, daily, certainly, but sometimes it feels like moment to moment. There really has never been, at least in my lifetime anyway, a better time to cultivate our faith and learning how to keep the faith, especially in times that are so uncertain. So you are exactly in the right place. And I'm Reverend Judith Laxer, and I'm honored that you have chosen to spend this time with me and the virtual Goddess Temple community here for our Goddess Worship Service. So we're going to start. I keep checking my notes, make sure I stay on track here. We're going to start by singing a little song. Of course, I'll be singing it. You'll be singing it along with me wherever you are. Many of you who have participated in our services know this song already. It's a very old chant, meaning old, like I've known it for decades. I don't remember exactly where I learned it or who created it. If you happen to know, please let me know so I can credit that person or people in the future. The lyrics go like this, very simple. Hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. And simple tune, we'll just sing it a couple of times through. Join in when you catch on. Hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Once more, hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Lovely. You sound really beautiful today. We're going to continue on in creating our sacred space. And so that goes like this. If you would take a moment, wherever it is that you are, to close your eyes, go within, get yourself as comfortable as you possibly can, wherever it is that you are in this moment. And let's take a nice, deep, cleansing breath together. And then take a moment to call all the pieces and parts of you home to yourself. And what I mean by that is, we've got that monkey mind that's always so busy thinking, wondering, curious here and there. And we want to quiet that mind now and ask all the pieces and parts of you that you might have projected into the future or might be stuck in the past or that are distracted in any way to gently come home. Come home and back to yourself so that you can be here now. Breathe into that presence. And on your next exhale, begin to ground yourself to the earth by imagining a line of energy that extends down from the base of your spine, reaching downward toward the earth. So it goes down through the seat that you're sitting in or the ground that you're sitting on, and through the floor of any building you might be in. It's an energetic line that extends all the way down like a big, strong taproot. And it enters through and into Mother Earth, who opens to receive your energy as you send that root down, further down, as deep as you need to send it, so that you feel deeply connected to her, held by her, and very, very grounded and present in this moment. And when that taproot gets exactly as deeply as it needs to go, send out smaller little branches reaching out and taking hold so that you really feel connected to the earth, our big, beautiful Mother Earth. Good. Imagine now that those smaller rootlets and the main taproot become porous and start to drink the energy of Mother Earth up through them, bringing them all the way up your taproot, transferring over into your spine and all the way up to your heart. So imagine that energy coming up now as you breathe in and out, knowing that the energy that you are bringing up through your taproot is the unconditional love of the mother, nourishment, sustenance, diversity, beauty, all the wonders of the earth, all of her strength. Drink all of that up. And when she arrives there in your heart, let her rest there. Take another deep breath to make more room for her. Good. And leave the energy of Mother Earth right there in your heart. And imagine the heavens now and find the moon. And our beautiful goddess moon is waning. She's in the waning phase and she's in Aries today. So imagine that fiery crone pouring down from the heavens, entering into your crown, coming all the way down through your head and your neck. She is making her way into your heart as well. And when she arrives, breathe deeply once more. Now, leaving the earth and the moon energy there in your heart, look to the heavens once more and find the sun. And he is in the sign of Cancer today. And imagine that warm, golden, watery, if it's possible for gold and warm to be watery, light pouring down onto you, loving and nourishing and nurturing all the way down from the heavens, down through your crown. He is making his way into your heart as well. And when he arrives there, once more, breathe deeply. Oh, that just feels so good. So in a moment, I'm going to ask us to take another deep breath. And this time when we exhale, let's imagine that we can use our exhalation to push these three cosmic energies, earth, moon, and sun, from our heart straight forward outside of our bodies. We'll imagine it swirling all around us and connecting to everyone who's watching this lives in our big, beautiful, sacred space, a magnificent circle. And let's do that now. So nice deep breath. And out it goes. In this way, we say we have stepped between the worlds. What is between the worlds is not affected by the worlds, but can heal and transform. And so we say, our circle is cast in perfect love and perfect trust. Blessed be. All right, so now we will sing in the elements, beginning in the north. I've got this little beautiful little cut crystal here, and you'll catch on to the song if you don't already know it, and it goes like this. Spirits of the earth, carry me. Spirits of the earth, carry me home. Spirits of the earth, carry me home to my heart. And then to air in the east. Spirits of the air, carry me. Spirits of the air, carry me home. Spirits of the air, carry me home to my heart. And to fire in the south. Spirits of the fire, carry me. Spirits of the fire, carry me home. Spirits of the fire, carry me home to my heart. And to water in the west. Spirits of the water, carry me. Spirits of the water, carry me home. Spirits of the water, carry me home to my heart. And to spirits in the center. Spirits of the center, carry me. Spirits of the center, carry me home. Spirits of the center, carry me home to my heart. Lovely. Now for the invocation that I will read, and if you'll respond in unison on the Be With Us on the end of every line. Great Mother of all life, be with us. Corn Mother of abundance, be with us. Spirit of the life-giving grain, be with us. As summer ripens to fullness, be with us. We are blessed by the nourishment you provide. Be with us. Today we offer our gratitude for the fertile earth. Be with us. We honor the sacrifices made for our lives to continue. Be with us. And in the spirit of reciprocity, we also make sacrifices. Be with us. Corn Mother, you who selflessly give of yourself, be with us. Reveal your mysteries to us. Be with us. We gather on this fine day to be in your presence. Be with us. Blessed be. Lovely. Well, if we were together in our Gaia's temple service, this is where we would typically do the meet and greet and say hello to everyone. So I'll just offer another big hello to everyone, to everyone, to everyone. If you're watching live with us in this moment, or if you come back and watch this video at another time, hello, hello, and welcome. I hope that you are healthy and strong and staying somewhat sane during this incredible time. And speaking of incredible times, we always orient ourselves to where we are on the wheel of the year. And we're going to begin that way, doing the same thing as we usually do. So right now on the wheel of the year, we are halfway between or on the way in the middle between the summer solstice of Letha and the Sabbath of Lunasa, which is coming up on August 1st. So just to give it all context, and for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, the Wheel of the Year is the spiritual model in pagan and earth-based spirituality, and there are 8 Sabbats or natural holy earth days along the wheel of that year. The solstices and the equinoxes, which correspond to the cardinal points of north, south, east, and west on that wheel. And then in between are what we call the cross quarter days. And those are the ones that come, well, all of the Sabbats come approximately 6 weeks apart from one another. And the cross quarter days are the sacred holy days that are the transition from one season to the next. The cardinal points are the peak of each one of those seasons. So we just had the peak of summer at the solstice. And even though it is still full on summer right now, which is a beautiful and blessed thing, as we approach Lunasa, we are actually entering into the beginning of the season of autumn. And of course, I know it's hard to think of autumn beginning at August 1st. We're so oriented to it happening, as the weather gets a little cooler into September. But August 1st actually is the beginning of autumn on the pagan wheel. And I finally, after all these years, looked up the word harvest because it's like a little wordy nerd. And harvest actually comes from Old English, and it means autumn. And the derivation of the word comes from the ancient Indo-European, with Latin roots, of course, meaning to pluck. Harvest means to pluck. And that's exactly what we do in autumn. And we do that because we know the winter is coming. And so it is time to glean, 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 pluck, 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 and preserve as much as we can for the fallow time that's coming. So, of course, if any of you keep a garden like I do, you've been harvesting for a while now. I mean, we can start harvesting our radishes as early as the end of April and May. So this isn't actually the first harvest, but it is the first harvest of the grain. And it is important, of course, um, for this to celebrate this harvest in a specific and particular way, because the other things that we harvest from the garden have a little bit of a shelf life to them. The radishes are only good so long before they start to degrade, but the grains, which can be preserved and ground down into flour, can then be baked into bread that we can continue to eat in the fallow times. So the harvesting of grains to the ancients and also to us was quite an important part of our survival. And so when the grains came in, Lunasa was the time when we baked bread, blessed bread, and offered our gratitude for the grains. Now, what we call, so today I want to talk about one particular grain, and that is corn. And what we call corn is actually a tall annual cereal grass. It's a grass, corn, which is kind of crazy. And the word corn originally referred to all grain. Corn was the name that was given to any grain that was taken in. The actual name of the grass that we call corn is maize, M-A-I-Z-E. And originally it was Z-maize, Z-E-A-M-A-Y-S. And I read in doing some of my research that Z-E-A meant to live, and maize was a name for mother. So the corn itself actually means to live, mother. And so that's why I'm going to be talking about corn mother today. I want to tell you a few more things about maize because it's really just, it's amazing. Maize is thought to have originated 55 to 70 million years ago on this planet in what is now Central and South America. And it has since diversified into over 10,000 domestic sort of species of the corn. And I already talked about the botanical name. So it began to be cultivated by indigenous people in southern Mexico since at least as long as 10,000 years ago. And maize was considered the mother of all life for the people. And the reason for that is because maize contains protein, vitamins, and minerals. So it truly was a staple that kept the people alive. Even the corn silk or the tassel was and is traditionally used for to calm inflammation and as a tonic for the heart. So every part of the plant was used for sustenance and also as medicine. One of the things that I love uh, about corn is that some of the species of corn, well, it's an annual. Some of the corns are more perennial, but the majority of the corn that we know on our planet today is an annual, which means that in order to keep having the crops of corn, we must plant it. We must cultivate corn, which means we are in a different sort of relationship with it than if it just self-seeded and came back time and time again. There's a way to be in relationship with perennial plants, of course, but there is something about cultivating the relationship of what we must plant in order for something to continue on. That is really very, very special. We get into a different kind of relationship because we must tend it, and not just the planting of the corn, but also the preserving of the kernels so that corn will continue and we can continue to eat it as time goes on. I love that aspect of being in relationship with our food, especially because for most of us, food is the thing we either get at a restaurant, although not so much today, or in the grocery store. And so really shifting our focus to the relationship that we have with food and what exactly goes into cultivating it in order so that we have some, it really does ground you to the earth in a different way. So corn is still a staple food for many worldwide. And in fact, more corn is grown even than wheat or even rice. So it is in many ways the most popular corn. Now we eat sweet corn, on the cob or in the can or frozen, but most of the corn is grown for animal feed, for cornmeal, oil, starch, and syrup. Corn oil, cornstarch, and corn syrup. And so, one way or another, we know that corn is like the great sustenance grain. And I just want to point out, I just want to show you these because they're just so gorgeous. So we look at, mostly we find yellow corn or yellow and white corn in the grocery stores, but I hope you can really see the colors on these dried corns. I mean, this particular cob has green, yellow, orange, pink, blue. It's magnificent. So corn, originally these grains came in all sorts of different colors. And this is dried, obviously. And so these are the kernels that would be used to plant the corn in the future. I just think it is a magnificent plant. And I've grown corn in my own garden, and it is a majestic plant. It is so strong and it comes up so quickly and it grows so tall. And it's just really so striking and so beautiful. As I'm sure all of you know, I'm not telling you anything about the looks of corn that you haven't seen before somewhere along the way. So, uh, so today I want to talk about Corn Mother. And also, she is known as the Corn Maiden and sometimes the grandmother of the corn or the spirit of the corn. And so, because she's known in these three different aspects, we can see the triple goddess there as Maiden, Mother, and Crone. And she is definitely of this continent. She's native to the Americas. And it's also so interesting when you start to learn about the different goddesses all over the planet that each area or many areas around the globe have a goddess who, of course, is associated with the earth. And so we know her here in the Americas as Corn Mother, but we also know her as Demeter in Greece, the great grain mother. In Rome, she's known as Ceres, Ceres, which is where we get the word cereal. To the Celts, she was known as Ceridwen, Isis in Egypt, and in Inanna in the Middle East. So all of these goddesses were great earth mother goddesses who provided food for her people. In all of her emanations, she is the nurturing mother, the abundance of the earth that feeds her children from her fertile body. So the Corn Mother story is one of sacrifice. And, at this time of year, well, hopefully not only at this time of year, but especially at this time of year when we start to turn toward the harvest, it's really important for us to remember that every time we harvest something to put it on our plate that then will end up in our belly, we are giving it death. We are taking the life of whatever has grown so that it can nourish us, so that we can grow. And eventually, when our bodies go, we will return back to the earth and we will nourish the earth as well. But it's part of that cycle. And so, like I said, it's very easy to just go to the grocery store and, pick up a peach or a corn of cob and not really think very much about it. But when we're taking that cob off the stalk, we are actually sacrificing its life. And so I like to remember that the word sacrifice, the true meaning of the word sacrifice, is something that is given up for a sacred purpose. And so that is important to keep in mind. And that's another reason, of course, why we say, a prayer of gratitude before we eat, because we recognize that something has been sacrificed for our betterment, for our nourishment. And in this way, we stay in relationship with it. So while different native tribes all have their own versions of this story about Corn Mother, they all have this similar theme, which is that of sacrifice. And the story pretty much goes like this. And I tried to find different stories, and while the versions changed a little bit here or there, the other, there really wasn't very much of a story about Corn Mother, although the stories of Corn Mother are central to the creation myths and to the spirituality of many of the indigenous tribes of the Americas. Anyway, whether she is seen as an old woman or young maiden or a mother or an actual mother of a family, Corn Mother lives with a family, and she lives with a hungry family, and she lives with a constantly hungry family. It seems that the very moment after they finish what is on their plates, they are thinking about their next meal. They are getting hungry for their next meal. And so while the family is eating the food that she has provided for them, Corn Mother disappears and then she comes back with more food, more corn to feed the family, and eat it they do. And so one day, two sons in this family get curious to know where and how Corn Mother is getting all the food that she provides. And so they leave the table and they follow her. And what they see when they follow her disgusts them. On the Myths and Legends website, it tells us that depending on the version of the story, the corn is either scabs or sores or skin or nail clippings, or in one way or another, pieces of her body. In all the versions, the origin of the corn is disgusting. And once the family learns of its origins, they not only refuse to eat it, of course, but they become enraged. And then, of course, they turn against her and they want to kill her. But instead of trying to run to avoid her death or save herself from death, Corn Mother instead instructs them. Take my corpse, she tells them. So after you take my life, then take my corpse and drag it back and forth across the fields, back and forth until all of my flesh comes away from my bones and is left in the fields. And then take my bones and plant them in the center of that field. And then go away and come back 4 moons later to the fields. And that is exactly what they do. They take her life, they drag her body back and forth across the fields until there is no flesh left on her bones. They bury her bones there and they leave, and they return in 4 moons. And when they return, the fields are filled with tall stalks, their tassels swaying in the summer breeze, loaded with ears of corn ripe for the picking. This is an interesting part of the story. Miraculously, then, Corn Mother instructs them again how to save, dry, and plant enough of the kernels for continued crops. And in this way, the people never went hungry again. So that is essentially the story of Corn Mother. So Corn Mother, really, we can see her as Mother Nature, of course, whose body we eat all the time. All the food we eat comes from the earth. So it's interesting to me, of course, that they find it disgusting. I mean, we can look at this, of course, metaphorically, we're like, ew, parts of her body, that's disgusting. We would never want to eat that. And yet, just last night, I went and cut a whole bunch of peas off the vine and put them in a basket and brought them in. Oh, aren't they beautiful? Aren't they lovely? Aren't they sweet and delicious? They're part of the body of Mother Earth. The apples that are starting to fall from my apple tree are part of the body of Mother Earth. The food that we eat is part of the body of Mother Earth. We rise from the earth, we return to the earth. The apple comes out and we eat it and its remains die back. So it's just interesting to me. And, something that we really ought to think about and remain mindful of, that we are not separate from anything in nature. So a few things I want to point out about this story, of course. One is that, of course, Corn Mother lives with a family, but not just any family. She lives with a hungry family, and that family is hungry constantly. So I think when we look at any of these myths and any of these stories, and we start to pull them apart and break them down, or really contemplate the different aspects, or these stories come down the line for years and years and years, right? These are ancient stories. Many of them are creation stories. So the things that survive up until now, when we hear them, like, why would that be in the story? Like, it's not just that she lives with a family, but she lives with a hungry family, a constantly hungry family. And I think what that does is set up this particular reality here, which is that without food, we are not going to survive. And our bodies tell us we need food by giving us hunger. So Corn Mother lives with a family that is hungry, which sets up the reality that we have got to eat in order to continue to live. So that kind of sets up the foundation of this story, and of course, why she's so important. So the family the family eats, and while she's eating, she's back out there getting more food to bring to them. And so in this way, we see that Corn Mother is a selfless provider. She understands her role, which is to provide food for her people, nourishment for her family, and that's what she does. Then, of course, when she's found out, whatever that means, and finds that she's going to be sacrificed, she doesn't shrink from it. She doesn't run away from it. There's like this inherent understanding and acceptance, like, well, yes, at some point, my life will be forfeited. But that doesn't make me want to run or try to outrun my death. And by putting it in that sort of spiritual context, she doesn't shrink from that reality. In fact, she not only sort of agrees to it, in some stories, she gives her consent, actually, okay, it's time for you to take me. But more than that, she says, okay, then after you have taken my life, make sure you do these things. Drag my body back and forth across the fields until all of my flesh falls from my bones. I mean, we can look at that as, not just the shucking of the corn, right? Like taking the kernels off the cob. She instructs them not to waste her. Just because my body, you're taking my life, don't waste my body. Don't waste what can sustain you in the future. Take those kernels, learn how to dry them, preserve them so that they don't get moldy, so that you'll be able to plant them again. And in this way, when I'm no longer here to run out and go get more food for you, you can survive yourself. I think that's a beautiful aspect of this. She doesn't shirk away from sacrifice, and in fact, in a way, leans into it. So then after they return to the field and the corn crop is thriving, and this is kind of like miraculous, then somehow, oh, there she is to instruct them about how to preserve the kernels, as I just said. So I think really like, okay, first they take her life, then they completely take apart her body. Her corpse is gone. There's nothing left of her. And then miraculously, she's there to instruct them how to save the kernels for the future. And I think what this speaks to is the inevitability of the life cycle. I think it also points out very, very clearly if we just make this sort of narrative jump that first she's dead, but then she's there again to tell them, something else that's really important, that death is not the end, that we can die, that our bodies can die, but that is not the end of who we are. That's not the end of our spirit. I think that's why in one emanation she is, in some of the stories, she is the emanation, the spirit of the corn, not just the body of the corn, because she doesn't die. She is sacrificed. Her life is sacrificed, but death is not the end. So I think that it speaks to the life cycle, and that it is a cycle, that it doesn't end with death. And that made me think about this also, which is that in ancient Greece, there were the Eleusinian mysteries, and the people from all over Greece, and particularly Athens, would make the pilgrimage to Eleusis for an initiation, a spiritual initiation. And I've talked about this a lot in Guy's Stipple services before, particularly in September, that, we don't really know what those mysteries comprised of. We don't know the rituals because everyone who participated in them was sworn to secrecy, that you had to be an initiate and experience it for yourself. That wasn't the type of thing that left those ancient rituals and they said, hey, you know what they did inside the sacred circle? It didn't happen. However, one thing that I have heard, that I've sort of read or has been alluded to, that one of the mysteries revealed to the initiates in the initiates' Holy of Holy temples was an ear of corn, that an ear of corn was held up and the husk was pulled away so that you could see that from one comes the many. And inside that husk was kernel after kernel, rows and rows and rows of kernel. And in each kernel was the potential for so much food. In one cob was the potential for so many lives thereafter, and that it never ended with just the one. So that's an interesting thing too, how this this life cycle and this understanding of that life cycle is pretty global, you know, or was in our ancient times. So this leads us to look at, you know, where we are and what's happening in our world right now, and the sacrifices that we are making at this particular time in our history. And we are making some pretty serious sacrifices now. We are social people and we have to be socially distancing, and all of our conveniences and joys of getting together and being together and going for a drink at the, you know, at a restaurant or a bar or whatever it is that we are used to doing and we are not doing now because there is this pandemic going on. These are sacrifices we are making, and we are making these sacrifices like Corn Mother did for the good of the people, wearing our masks, staying home, washing our hands a million times a day, all of these things we can consider the sacrifices that we're making at this point. And we can also remember that old, you know, adage, we reap what we sow, right? And so we can look at what are the kernels that we have sown, that this is what we are reaping now. And there's several ways to look at that. We can look back and say, what is it that we have done or didn't do that has brought us to where we are now? And we can also take a look at what is it that we're doing now and how is that going to affect what takes place in the future? So this is kind of like that, again, another cyclical aspect. Everything that we do, in a way, is sowing kernels for the future. Every action that we take, we sort of can look at it metaphorically as planting a kernel in the ground that's going to grow. And what is going to grow from the thoughts that we have, the emotions that we have, the actions that we take, the things that we do, our behaviors, the way we go about living in our lives. If we think of these as kernels, then what is in every kernel? And how is that going to grow? What is that going to grow into? Is that going to grow into something that we are happy that we are reaping? Is that going to grow into something that we did not expect and we weren't mindful about? You know, I know this whole pandemic thing because of everything that's going on in our world in a crazy way is getting politicized now. Rather than looking at, oh my goodness, this is a terrible disease and it is contagious and we must curb the contagion. And, you know, instead of thinking, what is the way that we can stop this thing and what can we all do that is the most powerful thing we possibly can do to curb this? You know, we talked about flattening the curve and stopping this and just halting this virus in its tracks instead of just pretending like it's not happening or not wanting to make the sacrifices because we don't like it. And there it goes, you know, on and on it goes. We're seeing the rise in the cases again in this country. And it's because a lot of people don't want to make those sacrifices, particularly around wearing masks. You know, I never think, hey, can't wait to put on my mask because it's time to go out to the grocery store. I'm not happy about that. It doesn't feel good to have something on my, I don't feel good about that. But it is a sacrifice that we make because we care about other people and we want to do what's right for the greatest good of all. So in pagan spirituality, we look at what's going on in nature and we try to emulate nature. We try to emulate nature because then we are aligned with the reality that is at the foundation of our existence. And when we are aligned with that reality, hopefully, and mostly, we live happier, more deeply connected lives. At this point, on the wheel of the year, as we're looking toward harvest and our minds are starting to go toward the coming fallow time and what we can do to make sure we can sustain ourselves, we know that we must make sacrifices in order for that to happen. So we can look at that in terms of our food and our food supply, But we can also apply that same sort of template to what's going on in our world. What do we want to have happen in the fallow time? I don't know about you, but I want to gather with friends and family and loved ones at Thanksgiving. We're not going to do it if people don't make the sacrifice, put the mask on their face, and stop the contagion. I actually had a little run in with someone recently who this person called it the plandemic, as if it was planned. To which I would respond this: whether it was planned or not, whether you want to politicize this and make it about politics or not, we do indeed have a virus that is contagious, and it is a pandemic. It's not an epidemic, it's everywhere, and it's not going away. So we must make sacrifices for the highest good of all. And the highest good of all in this case is everyone else on the planet, everyone else in our community, our family, our friends, our loved ones, everyone. These are the sacrifices that are necessary. And I think that when we put them in a spiritual context, it makes having to adapt to these changes a little easier. I think it makes having to endure the hardships a little easier, because we know that that is helping our souls to grow and evolve, and that the peacefulness inside ourselves, knowing that we are doing our part to end hardships as much as we can, as soon as we can, is good for the soul. So if you would, I'd ask you to close your eyes and go within. I'm going to lead us through a little guided meditation at this moment. And so once more, take a nice deep breath. And reconnect to your grounding cord that you sent down at the beginning of the service. And if you came in after we did that, then go ahead and ground yourself now. Imagine your roots deep and strong in Mother Earth. And then once more, bring your attention up to your third eye in the center of your forehead. Imagine it like an actual eye, just like your other two. And then go ahead and open up your third eye and look out through it into your imagination, and find yourself standing at the edge of a large cornfield on a warm, sunny, beautiful summer day. The sky is bright blue. There are a few puffy white clouds floating above, and the air smells sweet and green. This cornfield goes on almost as far as your eye can see. It is huge. And there are rows and rows of tall corn stalks spaced evenly, growing beautifully, with ears of corn leaning out of each one. And there are beautiful sunflowers here or there, and especially a group of them in the very center of this cornfield. And everything growing here is softly swaying in the warm summer breeze. It's beautiful. And now you notice a large basket that is sitting on the fertile earth at the edge of one of the rows closest to you, and it is filled with dried corn kernels. Clearly, someone followed Corn Mother's instructions about how to preserve seed for the future, and this basket is evidence of that. So walk up to that basket now and plunge your hands into it. Plunge both your hands into the basket and feel the hard, dried kernels that are cool to the touch. And know that you are touching the future here. Now begin to pull your hands out of the basket. And as you do, take one of them. Take one kernel from the basket. And then walk along the edge of the cornfield until you get to where one of the rows of the corn ends. So just walk along the edge of the cornfield now. And as you walk, allow your mind to begin to consider the sacrifices that you're making at this time, all the things that you've had to change and adapt to, all the things you've had to give up during this time of COVID-19. There might be things that I already mentioned. There might be other things that I didn't. So just take a moment now and think about all the things you've had to give up at this time. Now, our current circumstances have forced us to make these sacrifices for our health and for the health of others. But now, in this season, when the first harvest begins, and in the spirit of reciprocity for our daily bread, think of something you will choose to sacrifice, a willing sacrifice, like Corn Mother makes, for the highest good of all. What will you give up for a sacred purpose? Maybe you'll join the Meatless Monday movement, or maybe you'll stop using chemical cleaners in your home, or maybe you will withdraw your support of a product you love because you learn that the company that produces it is not aligned with your core values. As you walk along the edge of this cornfield, bring to mind a sacrifice that you will make. Do that now. And now you find that you have come to the end of a row of the corn, and you find that there is another furrow there already plowed and ready for planting, as if someone knew that you'd be coming here. And so imagine now that the truth of the sacrifice, the one you will make for the highest good of all, not something you're forced to make, the one that you've chosen, is held in this kernel, the kernel that you took from that basket. And then go ahead and plant it. Place it in the furrow and push the soft, damp, clean smelling earth over it. It feels good to know that you have planted the seed that will grow to nourish you and yours, to have participated in this vast cornfield that will feed life and thereby support its continuance. What a blessing. And now a very beautiful and soft rain begins as you start to walk yourself back out of the cornfield. And it's also good to know that this rain will come down and nourish the seed you have planted, the kernel, the beautiful kernel of your sacrifice. Take another deep breath and gently bring yourself back here with me. When you feel ready, open your eyes. Come on back. Corn Mother tells them to drag her body this way and that, which is in essence telling them how to plant the kernels, and then to wait 4 moons and then come back. When I read that, I couldn't help but notice, you know what? This whole thing about social distancing began mid-March, and here we are mid-July, and that's 4 moons. And here we are. And what is it that we are reaping, that we have sown? I think as time goes on during this pandemic, it's a good idea for us to ask ourselves every day, what are the kernels that we are planting? The kernels are sweet and nourishing, right? They are food. We can look at that as food, food that we take into our body for nourishment, but also the food of life that sort of keeps us inspired and nourishes our soul, our minds, and our heart, as well as our bodies. Kernels are food for the future. And I am going to talk a little bit more about seeds and legacy at the next service in August. But we can look at every kernel, right, holding the potential of what comes after it. Kernels are right action. And so taking the time to think about all the actions that we take, no matter what they are, even the mundane, chop wood, carry water actions that we take every day in our lives. What are the kernels that we are planting with the actions that we take? Which means that we're always thinking a little bit ahead. If I do this now, what is the result of that going to be? I think that level of mindfulness is really important at a time like now. And of course, we must remember that kernels are precious. Kernels and seeds are precious because they do contain the future. And at a time when we find ourselves like so ready to be over all of this and to get back to being together and seeing what the world is going to be like past or post pandemic, remembering the future in those kernels is really important to turn toward them and tend to them and make sure we have them for the future. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk with you about today, my friends. And so, as summer progresses with its long days, reaching toward early autumn, with its lush gardens and earthly abundance, with its sweet corn on the cob, may you be nourished by every kernel. May Corn Mother provide for your nourishment in all the ways that you need it most. May you be grateful for that nourishment. May you remember to save enough kernels for your future, for our future. And may your first harvest be bountiful and all your sacrifices be for the highest good of all. Blessed be. So, at this time in our Gaia's Temple service, we open up the floor for our community prayers. And then when we are all together, people just speak their prayers out. And then when they're finished with their prayers, they say, blessed be, we go on to the next person. It's such a beautiful part of the service where we all get to offer up what is, what we want to pray for, what's dearest or, at the top of our hearts to be spoken. And so I put it out in our last newsletter that if you wanted to contact me with what your prayer is, that I would be happy to offer it in this virtual service. And 2 people did so, and so I'm going to offer those prayers now. Barbie King, a congregant and member of Gaia's Temple, said this: I'd like to offer a prayer of love and healing and protection for humanity and Mother Earth. May we all learn to nurture ourselves and live in harmony with the beautiful flora and fauna we are surrounded by. Blessed be. And then Anthea Vining, who was a past board member of Gaia's Temple and is still a member of the temple, said this. She'd like to offer a prayer. I'd like to offer a prayer for my daughter, Talia, that she gain confidence in her purpose in this upcoming transition, that she truly trusts that the answers lie within and her presence on this earth is so very meaningful. Blessed be. So we'll probably be doing that from now on. And so if you have prayers that you want me to offer at the end of the service, worship service each month, please do send them to me and I will make sure to do so. May all of our prayers, spoken and unspoken, be heard and answered. Blessed be. Okay, so at this time, this is when we usually pass the love offering baskets at Gaia's Temple for the donations that come in that sustain us. So the first thing I want to say about this is to all of you who are continuing to support us, mailing in your checks for your pledges and just donating in an ongoing way. I am, and I speak for the board of directors and everyone in our community, are so grateful for your continued support. We are a nonprofit organization, and like many nonprofits right now, we have taken a huge financial hit. This is a huge sacrifice that has happened here for us in Gaia's Temple because we support ourselves. We are sustained solely by the donations that come in to keep this ministry happening. So everyone who donates and anyone who donates and any amount of donation means everything to us. It lets us know that you like what you're getting us. It lets us know that you like what you're getting, that you feel served by what happens here, and that you are invested in our continuance. On a personal from a personal perspective, that just means the world to me, because that lets me know that I am here doing the right thing, and that it is making a difference. And that feels, you know, there's nothing that feels more important to me in my life than that. So thank you in advance for all of your donations. We haven't yet to figure out how to put the donation button right on the bottom of our YouTube window. But what you can do is go to the Guidance Temple website, and right on the homepage, there's a donate button there. You can push that and you can donate that way. Or you can write out your check and mail it to the address that's also on the website. And actually doing that means that we won't be paying a fee to PayPal. So that's another way to do it that would be very beneficial to us. But anyway, and anything that you possibly can donate means so much, and we are so grateful. So thank you in advance for all of your contributions to Gaia's Temple. And because we are a nonprofit organization, every penny that you donate is tax deductible. So if you want us to keep it a record of that, let us know, and we will make sure to do so. And then you'll be able to deduct that from your taxes next year. Another thing about the financial picture for Gaia's Temple is that we tithe 10% of all the monies that come in at the service. So any donation that is made today, July 12th, 2020, that comes in, we will donate 10% to another nonprofit organization that is in alignment with our vision and mission and values. And today we will be tithing to the PCC Farmland Trust, which secures, preserves, and stewards threatened farmland in the Northwest to ensure that local farmers use sustainable organic methods. And we thought that was just like perfectly aligned with the message of the service today, to preserve for the future. So know that 10% of whatever you donate today will be going to the PCC Farmland Trust. Thank you so much. So the next service, our next service is going to be on August 9th. And one of the things that we are looking into is possibly doing it over Zoom. And in this way, it can be more interactive. And you might even, in that little gallery on top of a Zoom meeting, might be able to see other people. And so we are looking into that. And that is a possibility for the August service. The way to find out about that is to go to the Gaia's Temple website and sign on for our newsletter, which comes out about once or twice a month and has all the information of everything that we offer. And I'll be sending out an email at the beginning of August about that service. And then you'll know exactly whether to go to the YouTube channel or whether it's going to be a Zoom invite. We're really looking at that because each one has its advantages. What's happening over YouTube is that we're reaching a much larger audience. But we're kind of missing the intimacy of being able to interact together. So we're trying to find a way to do both, and hopefully we will figure that out in the near future. So thank you so much for hanging in there with us. It's an unprecedented time. Everything is new. We're just trying so hard to continue to offer up the services. I personally am not very technically minded. So, I see other services that people are offering. The production values are amazing. And I am clueless about all of that. So we're getting there, we're getting there a little at a time. So thanks so much for hanging in. Okay, so join the newsletter so that you know everything that's happening. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, actually, I'm going to finish with my closing thought, and then we're going to sing directions, and we'll call it a service. So I found this beautiful poem. You can tell by the time I read it that it's an old one. I don't know exactly when it was written, but it's a beautiful poem by Nanette M. Lowater, and it goes like this: a song of the corn, the sturdy corn, which brightens this land of ours. Its tender green in the early spring is fairer than blossoming flowers. Its amber silk with its glossy sheen is fit for a fairy's loom, and dearer its dimpled golden ears than the rose or the lily's bloom. Flowers to the man who toils for bread, when he need not fear that his little ones must go to their sleep unfed. There are lovely flowers in this land of ours, wherever the foot may fall. The tongue and the ear alike would tire should I try to name them all. From the arbutus on Atlantic shores to the golden poppy's gleams, as bright as the metal which lies at its roots in Californian streams. but never a flower such gifts has gained from the sun and dews of morn, or stands more fair in the summer air than the blessed golden corn. Blessed be. I just thought that was so sweet. Okay, so we're going to sing out the directions now. And the lyrics to this song go, um, uh, oh, yes, yes, thank you. I just got a little notice here. Remember to tell everyone that we will be having our virtual Lunasa ritual also live streamed over YouTube on August 1st. It's Saturday, August 1st at 7 p.m. And so we are doing the Sabbath celebrations, and you'll be able to participate. I'll also be sending out a notice about that at the beginning of August or shortly before that celebration. So please make sure that you join us for that also. Okay, so we're going to be singing out the Spirits of the North, and that goes like this. Go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And we'll go Widdershins now as we take it all down to the one. Go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And to the spirits of the fire, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And to the spirits of the air, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And to the spirits of the center, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. So before we sing our final song, the circle is open and unbroken. May the love of the goddess go in our hearts. As we do that, as we sing that song, imagine that you are grounding the circle now, taking your energy back that we sent out on that big old breath, gifting it all back to Mother Earth, coming back into this present time and moment as we sing. The circle is open and unbroken. May the love of the goddess go in our hearts. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. Thank you so much for joining us, my friends. I hope you stay nice and healthy and strong, and I'll see you at the next one. Blessed be.